Well, basically, I had a complete just like crash down, burning, like down to the ashes identity crisis. In 2000, and it was about 2016, 17, I had been in network marketing for 5 years. I had made it. I'd walked the stages, and then my business basically crumbled in the course of about 12 months. It went from like these big $18,000 months to like a couple thousand if I was lucky. I lost my car payment, like, because they gave you a free car, but when you don't hit rank, you're paying for the car, and like all these things that seemingly we're going to continue on forever, we're completely gone. And no matter how hard I worked, I couldn't rebuild it. And so I came to this point of like, this isn't it. And my full identity was in my success. It wasn't network marketing's fault. It was my fault. Like, I put my identity in that business. So in 2016, I've got a newborn. I've got a 2-year-old. I'm 60 pounds overweight. My business is completely crumbled. I have issues with addiction in different areas of my life, social media, phone addiction, alcohol addiction, all these things. And I'm sitting here at this moment where we can't pay the bills. Like this one moment where everything comes crashing down on me physically, financially, emotionally. Like, you are a failure at who you are as a business person. Like, all I ever knew as far as being successful was the fact that I could be recognized in this business. And so I remember this day where I had to go to my husband and say, we can't pay the bill. We can't cover the mortgage this month. And we had to borrow money from my son's savings account to pay the mortgage that month. And that was like, what was this all for? Like, my hustle, my striving, my identity being in, like, I put the business first. I thought when it makes it, it's going to make sense. It's going to be worth it. It wasn't worth it. It was never worth it. I never felt fulfillment by making more money. And so I went and I got I think I was in a closet. I don't remember. I just remember being in a small space. I had a notebook and pen, and I was saved at 9, but I had really turned from my faith as far as a relationship with God, because I wanted to be successful and I was hiding from him, right? Like, I knew that there were things in my life that weren't right, and I didn't want to face them. And so I sat down with a pen and a sheet of paper, and I just started journaling to God. Like, I can't go on this way. Like, who am I? What do you want for my life? What do I do? I'm so lost. And I started to feel like Holy Spirit just bubbling up inside of me. And I started journaling, and it was like God was speaking to me through the pages and saying, like, you're healthy, you're sober, you're a present mom, present wife. Like, you have an incredibly successful business. Like, you're going to lead women. And I'm writing all these things, like these prophetic statements over my own life, when I feel completely unqualified for any of it. And so I looked at the sheet of paper and I was like, that's cute, God, but like, I don't know how to become her. You know, I'm like a mess. And so I just started with the first thing that was, you're going to get healthy. And I went and I invested in a gym that I couldn't afford because they had daycare. And I put the boys in daycare, and I would work out for an hour, and then I would try to pray and try to read the Bible, even though I didn't really know how. And I would fumble around and like sit with God and like, what does this even mean to build a relationship with you? And so I did that for a while. And as I started doing that, doors started to open. I started doing lives on Facebook to other moms who I thought might need help with sales. I was always good at sales. I was always good at marketing. So I started to teach in these Facebook groups. I'd have a baby on my hip. My hair would be a mess, but yet I seemed to know what I was talking about. So these women would be like, you're so relatable. Can I coach with you? And I'd be like, sure. So I started doing these Zoom calls, and they would start crying and be like, you just told me what I'm supposed to do as far as a business that I've been praying and asking God for the past like 10 years. And so over time, they started to call them clarity calls. Steph, can I have a clarity call? Can I have a clarity call? Well, I kept taking these coaching calls, but they were few. Like I'd have one a month or two a month. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something here. I think God's showing me something, but I don't know how to grow this. It's slow. It doesn't feel good. I'm on social media all the time, blogging. I'm over here on YouTube. Like it feels like a lot and it's not working. And so started praying really intentionally, like, God, how do I grow this? How do I reach people and still be able to have hours for my kids? I want to be more present, but I also want to grow this business. I feel the call to be both. And I had a dream in 2018. It was October 3rd. And I had a dream and I woke up and it was so clear and it was so from God, like I could not ignore it. And it was start a podcast. Very clear. I've had a couple of those dreams in my life where God will show me a word or a book or a phrase, and it's like ingrained in my brain. I can't get rid of it. And so I went to my little closet in, I don't remember, this is my husband's office at the time, took out a $20 microphone, staticky, awful, plugged it in and started talking. I had the worst art in the world. I made it myself. The podcast title was wrong. Everything was wrong about it. I just went because God said. And within 1 year of that messy podcast, my coaching business had grown over 6 figures. And I'm like, this is something. This is something. This is something. And so I started to coach and coach and coach, and that was working really well. They started asking me, how do I start a podcast? So I built a course and I coached them, and then they'd go through the course. And then boom, like the business just absolutely exploded because I was in complete alignment. It was bigger than Stefanie start a podcast and grow a business. It was, you are the vessel for other people to reach whoever it is that they're called to touch. Like you're the person that unlocks the belief in them that they can start a podcast. That was my role. And so when I started to realize that was a mission so much bigger than me, and I was just a vessel for God to help these people start their own shows, it was unstoppable because it was now his business. So now today, that's what I do. I help people start a podcast and then learn how to make money from their podcast so they can let go of social media, let go of all these extra things. And it's absolutely so much bigger than anything I had on a vision board or a sheet of paper that it could only be God. And it just feels like I wake up every day and get to do the funnest thing in my entire life. And it's now my work.
What's up, family? If you enjoyed this clip, click the link down below to check out the full episode of this interview and remain blessed.